Hello, everyone. My name is Chuck McDonald, and I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Science at Carleton University. It's my pleasure to welcome you tonight to our 8th Science Student Alumni Mixer. First, I want to acknowledge that Carleton University is situated upon the unceded territory of the Algonquin people. We're excited to be hosting the Mixer virtually this year. We've put a lot of thought into the format and flow of tonight's event, and we truly hope that you're able to benefit from the panel discussions and networking opportunities just as you would have in person. Before we dive in, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our new science students who have just begun their journeys at Carleton and give a warm welcome back to the many returning students who are here with us this evening. I hope your fall semester is off to an excellent start. And to our alumni, tonight's panelists, our donors, and our mentors, we're thrilled to have you joining us, and we're grateful for your continued support. At Carleton, we are extremely proud of our more than 17,000 science alumni who span the globe and are achieving success in their respective fields. I'd like to take a moment to mention just a few of them. Earth Sciences alumna, Erica Anderson, recently created the introduction for the Canadian Museum of Nature's 3D film, Volcanoes 3D, The Fires of Creation. Erica, who currently works as a minerals curator for the museum, is featured as a volcano expert during the introduction. In the clip, she mentions her master's thesis project in Western Nevada, which she completed under the supervision of Professor Brian Cousins from Earth Science a few years ago. Oscar winner Derek Bradley was part of the team responsible for the development of the Medusa Performance Capture System, which allows filmmakers to record and digitally reconstruct an actor's face as a full-motion animated figure. Currently working as a Disney research scientist, you may have seen this technology featured in the recent Star Wars blockbusters, Disney's Maleficent, and the live-action Jungle Book. Derek's connection to Carleton includes both a bachelor's degree and master's degree in computer science. Mary Labay, a former biochemistry student at Carleton, is now a prominent nutrition researcher at the University of Toronto. Mary is recognized globally for her work investigating the nutritional quality of North American food and was appointed to the Order of Canada in 2019. Finally, I'd like to talk about Dr. Shirley Ball, who grew up in the Ottawa area loving nature and came to Carleton to study biology. Having taken advantage of the field courses and hands-on learning opportunities available at Carleton, she nurtured an appreciation for biodiversity and has since started an environmental education organization that connects youth to nature. In light of Shelley's significant accomplishments and contributions to the empowerment of women in STEM, it comes as no surprise that she was named a Fellow of the Royal Geographical Society of Canada. Clearly, Carleton Science alumni are making positive impacts in our society today. And many alumni are making an impact on our faculty too by supporting the students who follow in their footsteps. Whether it's through mentoring, donating, attending events, offering co-op and career opportunities for our students, or enjoying our annual homecoming celebration. For our current students, having the opportunity to meet alumni and hear their stories is very significant, and it can help shape their studies at Carleton. On that note, I would like to welcome current student Millie Close. Millie is in the final year of her Bachelor's of Health Science program, concentrating in disability and chronic illness, and earning a minor in communications and media studies. She is a team lead for the healthcare team with the Science Student Success Center, and is in her second term as the president of the Carleton Science Student Society. While at Carleton, Millie has been involved all over campus, having worked as a residence fellow, community developer in residence, a campus tour guide, and as a student philanthropy ambassador with the Department of University Advancement. She recently completed a term with the Ontario Science Student Association, representing Carleton Science students on their board of directors and working as their Vice President of Communications Outreach. Millie will now introduce our panelists.
Thank you very much, Dr. McDonald. So panelists, I'll ask that maybe you can give a little wave whenever I say your name, and that'd be great. Thank you. So first off, we have Mr. David Coffey, who is the acting advisor for the Canadian Institute of Health Research, specializing in program design and delivery. He obtained his Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry in 2009, as well as a Master's of Science in Biology in 2013. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Jeff Franklin, who's the Director of Product Engineering at Siemens Healthcare Diagnostics, Inc., who obtained his Bachelor's in Biochemistry and Biotech in 1997, as well as a PhD in Chemistry. Please also welcome Emily McCauley, the Senior Indigenous Science Liaison Officer at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Obtained her biology degree in 2007 and a Master's of Science in Biology in 2009. Next, please welcome Ms. Maria Pospolova, the Senior Data Scientist Team Lead at Interset, who has a Master's of Computer Science in 2015. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Yasser Sultan, who is the Acting Director of Water and Air Quality for Health Canada, pardon me. Dr. Sultan obtained his degree in chemistry in 2007, as well as a PhD in chemistry in 2011. So we'll begin by asking our panelists some prepared questions. Participants and viewers, please type your questions into the Q&A box, and towards the end of our program, we'll have a chance to pose these questions to our panelists as well. Great. So with that, I'll begin our questions. My first question actually is for David. So what are the basic prerequisites for jobs at the Canadian Institute of Health Research?
So as a government agency, one of the main prerequisites for working at the Canadian Institutes of Health Research is the ability to communicate both official languages, English and French. There are some English essential positions, but the majority of them would require that you be able to speak and write in both languages. Another prerequisite for a career in CIHR is strong written communication skills. On a daily basis, you'll be dealing with emails and inquiries from external stakeholders, as well as other employees within the organization as well. Another ability, requisite for a career in CIHR is the ability to show initiative, being able to take care of tasks on your daily duties without the need to be prompted is an excellent skill as well. Something else is to have a positive attitude. We're very team-oriented at CIHR. Not only do you build relationships amongst your fellow employees, but you're dealing with a lot of researchers out in the community, and having a positive attitude, being able to build a good rapport from them is a good skill to have as well. And thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you so much. So my next question is for Jeff. On a typical day at Siemens Healthcare Diagnostics, what does that look like for you? What do you do in your usual day?
I would start by saying not every day is the same. There is a fair amount of variety in my role. Being a manufacturing site, we manufacture a medical device product. And unfortunate to say, at my level now, I spend most of my day in meetings, but I rely on my team, obviously, to get the work done, the responsibilities that we have sort of checked off. And depending on the day's needs or priorities or issues that may be happening on the manufacturing floor, you know, those priorities shift, and day to day can look different. So I could come in any day with a plan, and it's rare that I actually adhere to that plan. But that being said, a lot of things that we do as a team that I oversee, we're product performance issues. We do investigations. You know, we see trends or metrics in certain charts, control charts. We start to do the investigations. Is it a material issue on the line? Is it a process deviation that needs further investigation? And we're the first line to investigate those issues and assign them to the appropriate departments, depending if it's chemical or material based or software based. That being said, we also deal with complaint investigations. So anything that gets escalated through the ranks of Siemens Healthineers, there's multi-tiered support systems in place. We're considered the fourth level, highest technical level. So anything to do with our product that can't be answered by the previous support systems, we will do the in-depth technical investigation pertaining to the field complaint. Sensor calibration, our product that we make here in Ottawa is a blood gas analysis device that has 13 analytes on it that measures 13 different components in the blood. And we have software upgrades twice per year that go out to the field. And we support that, my team. We gather all the data, do all the testing, the processing of that data, technical deep dives into trends. We adjust the coefficients in the software to recenter for each of the 13 analytes, the performance. If there's something more systemic or a bigger issue than just adjusting those trends through coefficients, we overview and overhaul the algorithms, tailor an algorithm to be more specific or more robust to a certain fact. If it's a material shift and we can't deal with it on the material level, we have to try to make the algorithm more robust to those variations. We support regulatory inquiries for registrations in different countries. We oversee design changes to the product. So, someone in the company wants to change the chemical in our sodium sensor, that would have to go through us and we would oversee that. So that's a typical day of responsibilities that may or may not happen depending on the priorities of the day.
Thank you. That's incredible. I always love hearing about places that have multi-disciplinary kind of approaches to their product line. So it sounds like there's a lot of things coming together all at once. Holy smokes. My next question is for Emily. So how did you land your role as Senior Indigenous Science Liaison at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada?
Thanks. Yeah, it was definitely not, kind of your typical, I had this career path kind of identified from the get-go, and I knew, what education and requirements I needed to get into this work. It was really much more of an organic and, sort of opportunistic journey, I would say, in a lot of ways. What happened was I was finishing up my PhD, I still am, and I was looking to transition from academia into something a bit more applied, and so I was looking into getting into policy work and had started looking for, a government policy position. But I think it's pretty apparent from my resume that I am an Indigenous person, and so I was actually headhunted as a mentor for an Indigenous student recruitment initiative, which we still have ongoing at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, which was really exceptional. And I think when I was in my undergrad and in graduate school, I was told constantly that networking is really important. And I think that's just it's such a vague, it's such a vague piece of advice that I never really knew what to do with. But what I would, sort of say to folks is that what I tended to do was become involved with organizations or projects or teams that I was really, really, really passionate about, whether that was sort of doing citizen science work out west or whether it was mentoring Indigenous students. When you start to do that kind of really, that work that's really important to you personally, I think that networking and those connections just come a lot more naturally after that. So that's what I would kind of encourage folks to do, and to just, to really be working collaboratively as much as possible. I find that I feel quite secure in my career, like my job security right now, as a result of this, quite large network that I've built. And I certainly didn't do it in any way to purposely network. It was really just, coming out of those genuine projects and connections.
Millie, I think your mic is still muted.
Oops. Thank you so much, Emily. Apologies, everyone. My next question is for Maria. What personal qualities or abilities do you feel are important for being successful as a data scientist?
I would say we can separate in two groups. So hard skills, we know that data science is built on intersection of three major fields. So it's statistics, then computer science or developing colleges, as well as knowledge of the domain where you apply actual data science to. So each of those spheres is enough to fulfill your long journey, right? So, however, when you're a data scientist, you have to be prepared that you will know everything in every of that area. So I think it's one of the major soft skills here is have the growth mindset. So be able and be prepared to learn new things every day, not just in university, not when you left university, but many, many years throughout your career. So, and as a result of that, you should also be able to learn from the people around you and collaborate, because as data scientists, you have to change many hats during the day. And as a result, you have to have a very good communication skills.
Thank you for that. My next question is for Yasser. So how did you land your career with Health Canada?
Perfect. Let me just close this stuff. First of all, I just want to say good evening to everyone who's dialed in and the panel members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My entry into Health Canada or the government of Canada was also opportunistic. It didn't follow a clear path coming out of school. I had just finished my bachelor's degree in 2007 and was in between. I knew I was going to do my PhD, but I figured it's time to market myself, co-network, and see what's out there. So it turned out I had a specialization in nanotechnology. It was pretty still an emerging field. It still is. And so I started to network with folks. Found an opening at Environment Canada where they were building their nanotechnology program. Got in, continued doing my PhD in the evenings and late into the nights, and finished that up and just continued my career. You know, I want to say getting my undergrad got my foot in the door, but it was really the soft skills, as mentioned, that gave me the career opportunities. It's all about being collaborative, being a team builder, and showing your bosses that you're up for anything. Especially when you're starting your career. This is what's given me all my opportunities. And when I transitioned to Health Canada, it was the same deal. It was really getting out there, showing my supervisors and managers that it's not, you know, after a certain point, everyone's at the same level. It doesn't matter if you're a biologist or a chemist, you know, or a physicist. It's how well you can sell yourself and market yourself and get in. And I think that's how I like to say how I ended up where I am now.
Thank you. It's interesting to hear everyone's career paths. I love hearing about folks who kind of didn't really have a straight line to where they are. I love to hear about the in-between and how folks get from Carleton to their careers. So it's truly a pleasure to chat with you all tonight. So my next question is for Jeff. What personal qualities or abilities are important for being successful in your role?
So being a medical device company or in the medical device field and in vitro diagnostics, it's a highly regulated environment. So along those lines, I think attention to detail is a very important quality, like something that, you know, may seem insignificant on the surface and cascade downstream into something that's a compliance issue or a quality product issue, like the snap of a finger. So, and, you know, we currently at our site are making on the order of 9 million test cards per year. And, you know, losing that attention to detail or a lapse in that attention to detail can greatly impact the manufacturing floor too. If we have to scrap a bunch of cards because of something that was easily avoidable that was overlooked. So attention to detail is up there. At the same time though, in this type of role with so many things like you had alluded to already, the multidisciplinary aspects of it, you can't lose sight of the big picture. You can't be in the thick of things all the time. You have to see how everything fits together and be a bit more systems thinking. Because if you're so focused on this one issue, you may come up with a solution that, you know, for a very niche application works well, but when you put it together in the greater picture, it doesn't work because you overlook certain other factors. So I also think creativity and innovation is very big. You know, coming up with creative and timely solutions in the manufacturing industry, healthcare industry is important. Always looking to improve and drive that new improvements to processes, products. And of course, innovation and creativity gives you the basis for your competitive edge, coming up with novel new product solutions or new features, gives you that competitive edge against your competitors in this area, because it is highly competitive. And of course, I guess as I alluded to in my first answer, is that we tend, in my role, address a lot of different things, and we have to sort of juggle many different aspects of the business in terms of keeping an eye on following, trending, metricing, pointing out the issues, and being adaptable and flexible, being able to shift priorities, think on your feet, and come up with those timely decisions, I think are all key to being successful in this type of role.
That's great, thank you. The following questions for Emily. So what does an ordinary day look like for you at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada? So what sort of things are you doing in your role on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, it's kind of like others say, it's not always, there isn't really a typical day, but it is always exciting. You know, reconciliation is a huge priority for our government right now. So I actually report directly to the former Assistant Deputy Minister of our Science and Technology branch. And so that causes a lot of our work to be kind of quite urgent if senior management needs to be briefed on an issue or make a decision quickly on something. So it tends to be very, very busy, and yet at the same time, it's very collaborative. And, you know, we have a very strong Indigenous representation on our team, and so, you know, we tend to also incorporate some Indigenous aspects of, you know, cultural practices in our day-to-day job. So what we do in our office, we're in the Indigenous Science Liaison office, we support our researchers in more effectively building relationships with, engaging with, and eventually even co-developing research projects with Indigenous partners. So in order to do that, we address everything within, you know, our branch that needs to occur in order for that to happen. So one day we may be doing outreach within an Indigenous community, looking for students who maybe have never heard that there are really exciting jobs in the federal government where you can do things like field work. And then another day, we might be on a field site visit to northern Manitoba, you know, doing outreach with a community there that is doing some traditional harvesting so that we can have some materials that they might be interested in having us analyze. And then, you know, there are other days where it's 8 hours solid of Zoom meetings, you know, and you've never met your new colleagues in person. So it really depends. It's very, very, very exciting, and it definitely doesn't get dull. But you do really need to kind of make sure that you're balancing sort of your mental health and your family life and your professional life at the same time. And I have to say, really, I'm not trying to do outreach right now. The federal government has some pretty good supports in place for their employees. I've been really impressed. So that is really a really key thing.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. My next question is for Maria. So what part of your job at Interset do you find the most satisfying, and what parts do you find to be the most challenging?
I think I'm a very practical person by nature. So what I do love about my job and about data science in general, it's very applied, right? So some people, they find excitement by, seeing a beautiful algorithm or a perfect math with just, for the sake of a math. What I do enjoy is to see something that we worked on actually brings results in practice, We say we catch bad guys with math, and that's what we do, right? So, and when I see the results, when I hear the feedback from the customers, and have that feeling, oh, gotcha, this is the most excitement. That's what brings me, every day to solving the puzzle. So this is frustrating and that's probably brings to the challenging part, because I find that the difference between, let's say, data scientist and developer, or any scientist for that matter, your task is never finished. It's always better than yesterday. You can improve, but you're not being perfect. And that's okay, for now, I'm done for now, but I'm not done forever. I probably will reiterate on that model, or I reiterate on the specific, question that I'm trying to answer. And this endless of a process, I'm a girl with a checklist. I would like to put the checklist and be done. So I had to make my own peace with that. So, and that's the most challenging part of the job for me.
That's fantastic. Thank you. My next question's for Yasser. On a typical day as director with Health Canada, what do you do, and what does that look like?
Thank you for the question. My day is fairly, as Jeff mentioned as well, it can be very unpredictable. We manage two big files, one on drinking water quality. So we support the provinces and territories to ensure that their drinking water is of the best quality and accessible to Canadians. And our other file is on air quality and air pollution. So making sure that the air that Canadians breathe is the best, and both drinking water and air quality is an issue that's top of mind to many Canadians, and it's something that keeps us very busy. So in a typical day, we have a wide variety of ongoing things. The first one is our core work that we call is preparing scientific assessments. These are very extensive documents which comb through relevant science and make conclusions on drinking water and air quality issues. This is where I get to put on my scientist hat, really dig in, and remember my chemistry training from back in the day at Carleton, and really make sure that that what we're putting out is scientifically accurate and defensible, really. The other things that we do take care of is a lot of our work is media inquiries, where we get questions constantly from media. As you can imagine, drinking water can get very controversial. Some of the issues we deal with is fluoride in drinking water, lead in drinking water, which are very polarizing issues, really. Canadians, some hate it, some love it. And our goal is to stick with the science. So we try to provide the correct interpretation of the science on some of these issues. Beyond that, we have various briefings, as Emily mentioned. It's when we have our senior managers asking for something they wanted yesterday. The bureaucracy in the government is slow until your senior managers ask for something, and then it becomes a priority very quickly. So we work fairly active on that, and then we also support some large-scale construction projects across Canada to make sure that there's no negative impacts from these projects, such as building railway stations and such, on air quality and drinking water. I would say this is a bit of the meat of our work, but as managers, what keeps us busy and up at night is really very much the HR side. As scientists, we're not trained as HR managers, as finance managers. Is something we fake until we make it through, and we learn the important skills that are needed to track and make sure that we have solid processes in place. So we have happy staff who can deliver on our work plans, and we have the budgets and the finances to meet it. So I would say my typical split is about 50-50, 50% deep dive into the science and 50% deep dive into the HR and finance world. And as you go higher and advance in your career in at least the public service, that percentage changes. So it can go all the way to almost 0% science and 90% advancing your department's priorities. So that's a typical day for me. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's interesting. I'm sensing a bit of a theme here that there's like, it's hard to describe a typical day because things are always changing, and it seems like most folks' positions, but that's interesting because when I chat with my friends, we're all concerned about doing the same thing every single day of every single week. So it's nice to hear that there's like a lot of variation in the professional world. So my next question is for David. How do you see jobs in the health research field changing and evolving in the future?
Sure, that's a good question. I just want to clarify on my my last point. I have my notes on one screen and I'm looking at you on the other screen, and I got my notes mixed up. So I just want to mention a couple more of the prerequisites for a job at CIHR. So I mentioned being a bilingual, communicate both English and French. A degree, definitely a bachelor's degree in a scientific field. Asset prerequisites are like a master's or a PhD, and the ability to use the Microsoft suite of software. It's a major part of what we do on a daily basis. Now to the current question, how do you see our career at CIHR changing in the near future? A lot of it has happened in the past year, obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic. What major thing it has shown is that we can deliver our work remotely from our homes. It's not necessary to be at the office 5 days a week. So I think even when the pandemic hopefully soon is resolved, I think we will still see a large push for more remote working, and maybe only need to come in to the office once or twice during the week. And another result of this pandemic is we're starting to embrace new technologies to deliver our work remotely. We just ran a major funding opportunity where we would normally fly in researchers to Ottawa to discuss face-to-face. We used Microsoft Teams to deliver it virtually. And we've also developed a new online scoring platform for these reviewers to use at this meeting. So it's we're seeing a lot of embraces of new technologies to deliver our work more efficiently, as one of the good things that came out from this pandemic. Another area I see happening is there's going to be more collaboration internationally on who we're funding. So we fund primarily researchers in Canada doing research in Canada, but through what we're seeing with the goal of getting a vaccine for the COVID-19, there's a lot more in international collaboration. So I envision that we're going to run funding opportunities dealing with more international partners. So yeah, that's how I see things changing.
Thank you. That's really cool. I imagine that like the shift to working from home will have a lot of implications on folks who typically do their work in offices. So I'm interested to see how that rolls out as well. Cool. So we're heading sort of into the third round of questions. So my next question is for Emily. What entry-level jobs do you feel are best for learning as much as possible and gaining as much knowledge as you possibly can?
It's funny, I was just looking at the list of questions and I was like, oh, I don't remember thinking about this one. That's a really great question. Honestly, so, I feel like I'm speaking to, I'm hoping there's a bunch of students and potentially some new and excited students in the audience tonight. So, I mean, honestly, I think a student position is one of the very best positions to get experience. We hire so many students every year. We hire 1,000 students actually at Agriculture, Agri-Food Canada each and every year. And I won't get into the bureaucracy of it, but it's much more flexible to hire students. And so that is something that everyone in the public service is very happy to do. And something I encourage all of my students to do is to really, those student years are great ones for trying out different units and trying out different jobs if you are able to crack your way into the government. I really do think that's the best time, because once you sort of get on your career path, there's absolutely always an opportunity to sort of explore new things, but you do get a little bit more, sort of focused in a certain direction by that point. I would really say it's student jobs, and I wouldn't be afraid to try anything. When I was first getting into science work and not sort of waitressing to pay my tuition anymore, it was sort of doing co-op positions or even volunteer positions in labs on campus, and then eventually, being invited to join some honors projects and things like that, and then it just built from there. So honestly, the student world, I think it's why I was a student for such a long time. It's a wonderful, there's so many opportunities. Really, it's a good time to be exploring that.
Thank you. My next question is for Maria. So what opportunities for advancement and development are there in data science right now?
I think I can speak for both data science and cybersecurity. They both right now are booming fields. So there is really a lot of opportunities. And I think this is a great time to get into it. And again, there is a lot of different levels of the jobs. It's dependent what is your previous level of experience or knowledge, but we always seeking for new students and new entry-level positions. And I think I have to agree on that one with Emily, that I think co-op is one of the best ways of trying new field or entering new field. And the beauty of data science, or many of the computer and technology problems, that you can apply to different domains. So as you being, let's say, computer science student or just looking for your first job, it's a good time to try different domains and see what suits you the most and what excites you the most, as well as find a group of people and a company that you feel most comfortable to thrive in. Because at the end of the day, most of your day you do spend within your colleagues. Now COVID times it's all virtual, but in pre-COVID times, we used to be, spending long hours in the office, and that's important that you enjoy the atmosphere and the culture of the company where you live. So I think, again, this is time to try it out as a co-op or student position and try different aspects of data science and different aspects of cybersecurity. And right now, I think it's still a developing field. So there is a lot of opportunities and a bit less specialization than in other fields, let's say. But I think as it progresses over the time, there will be more and more specialization, and then you will be more stuck to domain that you've chosen. Right now, it's a good time to get in and try things out.
Thank you. So our next question is for Yasser. Which personal qualities or abilities do you feel are very important for being successful within Health Canada?
That's a very good question. I think there are a whole bunch, and I would characterize them all in terms of soft skills. Like I mentioned earlier, I think having our strong science backgrounds gets us through the door. But if we want to do anything with our careers, it's really all about marketing yourself. And some of the qualities that I see in staff and we flag as really good qualities. The first one is to be collaborative. There's no, when you go into a work environment, whether it's a cube farm or it is you're working from home, it's all about how you can work in a team environment and get things and advance things. Your ego should be checked out, outside. It can't come into the workplace. And when it comes, you start to see conflict. The other one is really leveraging diversity. is something that, you know, I've come to appreciate a lot in my career so far. You know, here, diversity, I'm specifically talking about people with different training. So training in terms of engineers, policymakers, communicators, all working together. So for example, we recently worked on a drinking water guideline where we wanted to reduce the levels of lead in our drinking water. It's scary because lead, you know, the effects are decrease in IQ decrements in children. So it's something that you don't want in your drinking water. And you know, Jeff's drinking the bottled water right now and it could have lead in it. So, you know, so we came into this problem where we didn't know how to communicate out to the public what message we want to send. And so we got a communications group with us, and they helped us prepare material to make sure Canadians understood what we're trying to put out there, what we mean with our guideline values, and really what we're striving towards as a community. So I think leveraging that diversity is key. You can't say that I'm a chemist or a biologist and my world is what matters the most, because sadly it doesn't. And you know, we have to be multifaceted in every way. The third one is something that I've learned to address myself is don't ever take things personal. You know, a lot of people, when somebody says, hey, your work is not good, you know, or they say this could use additional editing, or, you know, you made a mistake, it's not personal. Everyone's just trying to move files forward, try to improve themselves, try to get products in the market. So, you know, it's a very good quality to learn early on in your career that you'll make mistakes. Don't take it personally. And it's a very good quality to have. And the last one, as you advance your career, that I've learned to do is you have to trust your people. You just have to take that leap of faith at some point, and it's good to take it early on and know how to figure out who you can trust. Everyone has a different comfort level of trust, but it's without that, we can't advance anything in our careers. I think those are just the qualities that I think are not just for Health Canada or the government. You know, they translate into many different fields, and something we should be cognizant of. Thanks.
Thank you so much for the fulsome response. That was, yeah, that's interesting too, because it's not one that I typically think of as a soft skill, like taking feedback well. Thank you. So my next question is for David. On a typical day in sort of program design and delivery, or in your role, what do you do? And I know that a typical day sounds like it looks very different each day, but I'm still looking forward to hearing your response.
So yeah, that is a good question. So in program design and delivery at CIHR, we deal with in two different lenses. A big part of our work is dealing in the open funding source competitions, where researchers apply with what they want to research and get grant money for. And then the other lens is strategic initiatives, where at CIHR saying we want people to apply to study these certain fields, and then so we're telling them what to apply for. So so those are two different lenses. In a typical day, you'll be obviously answering a lot of emails, going to a lot of meetings. It's government. There's like some people mentioned, there's a lot of bureaucracies involved, but you get used to it. So in the open funding lens, a lot of what we do is where we have these committees where we group applications that are proposing to study similar fields. So then we're looking to staff those committees with experts who could provide peer review of those applications, and then give us their recommendations on the strengths and weaknesses and which ones should get funding. And a lot part in for my world in the other lens, the strategic lens, is I work. Cihr has 13 institutes which work to move research forward in various aspects of health. So my role, I deal with the Institute of Aging. So they will come up with ideas that they want to get applications to study a certain aspect of aging. So I'll work to develop the text of the funding opportunity and determine the funds involved to go out the door, get the funding opportunity published online, and then process applications and help find reviewers in that field as well to help evaluate.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, next question's for Jeff. What part of your job do you find most satisfying, and what part do you find most challenging?
I would say in my role, some people are more driven by the extrinsic factors such as, money and title and recognition, and I'm not saying that's bad because it has its place, but for me, I'm driven more by the intrinsic and the sense of higher purpose. That's why I chose the field of medical devices, wanted to do research and develop in that area, because I want to feel that what I'm doing and working on is impactful to society, and the product we're making here enables healthcare professionals to do their job more efficiently and effectively, and gives the patient a better overall experience, being point of care, more timely responses. Faster time to result means doctors are on to an issue sooner rather than things escalating in a negative fashion. In the time of COVID, particularly, where we have a mobile handheld device that doctors can now take anywhere, even into these mobile assessment centers, and use to monitor or assess patient condition in regular intervals without having to send blood samples to a central lab and it being backlogged, and 4 or 5 hours later you get the results. We're talking a matter of a couple minutes for our product. So knowing that, I think, is what really is the most satisfying to me, is that aspect of it, and having that connection to impacting people's lives and their jobs. So, challenging, I'd say there's a few things that I would probably find most challenging, but I'd say the most prominent one is, as I alluded to in my previous answer, my group's at the center of a lot of things. We tend to find a lot of issues with the product, or do investigations into raw materials, or we come up with a lot of ideas for improvements of the product or software or features. And being innovative in those ways, also to try to address scalability, because as a manufacturing company, we don't want to just stagnate on, okay, we're making 9 million cards, so that's going to be good till the end of time. Obviously, we want to grow in the market, and that means more customers and having to make more products. So at some point, your existing structures and approaches and processes won't necessarily hold because they're not going to be the most efficient. So we're always looking for ways to improve and innovate. And I would say the most challenging aspect is taking all that stuff that we do and driving change, because people don't generally like change. So they get set in their ways. We have been doing a process for the last 8 years. We don't want to change it because it works. Well, trying to tell them that it's not going to work in 2 years when we're making 15 million cards, it's really organizing those stakeholders and getting buy-in and influencing those people to see what's best for the company going forward. So. I'd say that's the most challenging aspect.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I could imagine how that could be difficult to try and convince folks to change something that they've been doing for such a long time. And thank you. My next question is for Maria. So what entry-level jobs do you feel are best for developing skills and learning more about data science?
I suppose I started answering that question a bit earlier when I advised everybody go and sign up for COLP. But I think I'll go one step further, and I will advise go with a startup, because startup is a good place for COLP. We have a lot of students in our, like when I started with Interstudies was a startup. So, and I find that being part of the startup, you're treated as a junior developer, not really as a student. So that means you're given part of the work which actually goes into the product. You're supervised by the more senior colleagues, but you actually get the get experience of the real development, software development process and the real data science development process. So as we, again, as myself, I have been in a COLP program, and I find it's not only what you learn during the COLP, but it's also the mentorship and advice that you can seek from the senior colleagues around you. Also, I find often career viewed as a journey to a specific destination that you pick when you enter university. Like, I want to be, I don't know, data scientist, I want to be a chemistry researcher, and then you go towards that point. I think career should be viewed much more as a journey. And I find as the study in university and later my COLP programs and overall life, it's kind of directs you towards something that suits your needs, but also needed by the market and have a purpose. And I think all of that comes together if you view your career as a journey. And starting as early as a COLP program or as a student placement within a company, I think that's a good place for your entry job. So before you even graduated and made your choices.
That's wonderful as well. Oh my goodness. It's like on a very personal note, like it's so wonderful to hear that it's like important to think of career as like your career as a journey as opposed to just like I start here, I finish here, cool beans. So thank you for
take some pressure off you, right? So you don't have to decide right now what you're gonna do 5 years down the road. You say, okay, I'll decide later. But
yeah,
that's where I start.
Thank you so much. My next question is for Yasser. So what opportunities are there for advancement and development in the Water and Air Quality Bureau at Health Canada?
Thanks for the question. So in our bureau, Water and Air Quality, we have a mix of expertise. Like I was mentioning before, we have engineers who help us understand on the water side what happens at treatment plants, provide that level of expertise, both to provinces and territories as well. We have scientists, we have toxicologists at all levels, entry level and very senior. We have chemists, we have biologists, we have people with communications backgrounds to help us do outreach, and we have project managers. So, you know, we have a very large research team who are always out in the field doing, you know, very interesting work. For example, we have staff who are down and working in the subway system in Toronto, looking at air quality. We have teams which are looking at indoor air quality in First Nation communities in the north, in remote regions. So we have a very big mix. And of course, because of that, there's always opportunities that arise in our bureau. But I think I want to expand that a bit to the government and health. You know, the government's over 200,000 people, and there's just so much that you can do. You're not limited by your educational background. You know, you're not limited by what you've done. It's really what you bring to the table and what you're interested in. So, you know, I have a chemistry background, but I was offered a job as being a warden at the Kingston prison. You know, it's a very diverse world when you have so many different files that you can touch. The one thing that you always take with you as a scientist is our problem solving skills, the scientific method, you know, how we approach hypotheses, how we approach data. It's just ingrained in all of us. And as you try these different things, it's always with you. And as you enter in any job, it's with you as you advance. So I would say there are opportunities across the government, and they're there. COVID has changed our reality for sure. We're now a more virtual workforce, but we are a workforce, and we're continuing delivering on everything that we have committed to deliver on, and more as the public health agency deals with the COVID pandemic. So yeah, I think from my side, you can enter anywhere, and entry level, as everyone else has said, is the perfect opportunity to try different things. You know, you can go laterally and do 10 different projects, and then identify one that you're interested in, and you say, okay, fine, this is going to be my career. You know, and start to really delve in and advance and become more senior and more technical. So as entry level, as whoever is still, whoever's around listening, students entering the workforce, don't worry about where you start. You'll find out where you need to end up in the future. So take your time, try new things, and don't worry about what your technical training is. You've learned what you needed to learn and implement into the workforce.
Thank you so much. I feel like that ties in really well with what Maria was saying about how careers is a journey, and you have all these opportunities to sort of test things out. And yeah, thank you for that. So my next question is for David. Now, David, I know you have to head out a little bit earlier, so if it's all right with you, I'll ask you this question, and then I'll actually ask you another one directly afterwards. Awesome. Thank you. So what personal qualities or abilities do you feel are important for being successful in your role as an advisor at CIHR?
Okay, so I accidentally prematurely addressed some of the points in this question earlier. Let me just re-emphasize it. The biggest one for me is the ability to multitask. You're never going to have just one item on the go. You're going to have 5, 6, 7, so many files for you to address. You need the ability to be able to prioritize what you need to do based on importance and urgency. That's a big key. So also strong written communication skills. Often, well, not often, sometimes we'll get complaints from applicants who did not receive funding, and we have to address their complaint in a professional, polite manner. So that's definitely a key ability to be successful in the job. Also, is be able to show initiative, take on opportunities outside of what you have to do according to your job description. That not only gives you new skills, it gives you, as mentioned by some of the other panelists, the ability to network with other teams, and positions might become available higher up on other teams that you would be thought of based on your networking. Also, you need the positive attitude. I mentioned earlier, we work very closely in our team, and then we build relationships with the researchers that we're recruiting to come and review applications for us. And having a positive attitude goes a long way in that as well.
Thank you so much. So my next question for you, if you could do things all over again, completely over, would you choose the same path for yourself? If so, why? And if not, what would you change?
So yeah, I really like this question. That's what I flagged it for me. I think what I'm doing right now is perfect for me. I love science. I was very adept at more the theoretical book aspects of the science, and I struggled a bit, not terribly, but a bit in the lab setting, and doing the actual hands-on research. So for my career with CIHR, it's perfect. You need the background to be able to read over applications and look for possible to get a sense of what they're proposing, and look at what expertise and peer reviewers in the field that you'll need. So I think that's this career for me is perfect for that. You're not actually having to do the research yourself. What I would have done differently is I would have loved to know that this was a possibility earlier in my education. I was going through the mindset of okay, everything leads to a career in doing the research in the laboratory setting yourself. And as I mentioned earlier, not being maybe the best lab student myself, that led to a lot of stress for me. But if I knew from the outset that this was a possibility, it doesn't always have to be one way. And a lot of people have mentioned this. I'll mention it again. We're a government agency at CIHR. We hire students not only for positions during the summer months, but also part-time positions throughout the years. And we've hired many students. We create a schedule for them that works around their studies. And a lot of these students, once they finish their degree, if they like what they were doing with us, we often transition them into full-time jobs right off the bat, right at the end of their degree. So that's definitely something I would have, if I knew it was a possibility, I definitely go back in time and look for these opportunities, not only just at CIHR, but other agencies as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a few friends who are really gunning for a couple government positions and positions in public service, and they talk a lot about how they've heard so many wonderful stories about how people just find exactly what's right for them, because there's so many options, there's so many different ways you can go and ways you can apply your training. So thank you so much. Yeah, if you have to head out, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for answering our questions.
Thank you for the opportunity. Bye, everyone.
So my next question is for Jeff. What opportunities for advancements are there in product engineering?
There are a lot of opportunities generally in the medical device industry. It's always going to be something that's needed as long as there's people in health and hospitals. I think in vitro diagnostics is somewhere around $70 billion industry a year. So, it's a big industry. And there are a lot of opportunities. I mean, I just hired 3 new people a couple months ago. So we're constantly looking to hire as we grow and expand. And the higher you move up the chain, I guess, or the organizational structure, the more opportunities open up. And I mean, I've been in several different companies, all related to medical application to some extent. And there's always been opportunity for advancement, particularly now Siemens is a huge company. So, there's tons of programs set up where they have almost like a sabbatical type structure where you can get a leave of absence from your current job to go explore other areas of the business for a year. There's programs in place for new hires or people starting out in their careers to spend 8-month terms in different aspects of the business, and that also includes some geographical changes. Some people may go overseas for 8 months, and really to give them the foundational knowledge for different aspects of the business and where they may want to end up, and then they place them in the area of their choice afterwards. Within our own team, I tend to hire more junior people fresh out of school, keep that pipeline full of new ideas, new training, and cultivate those people up, those individuals up. And I mean, I've got a team of about 15 people, and I've got 3 managers, some team leads. So they've all kind of moved up the ranks, and those continue. I mean, even myself, just as of today, announcement was made that now I'm not director of product engineering anymore, but head of sustaining engineering for the Ottawa site. So everyone on my team is now taking on more responsibility and opening up new doors to new different products, and tons of opportunity all around, I think, is the short answer.
Thank you so much, and congratulations. So the following questions for Emily. What opportunities for advancement and development are there in agriculture at the moment?
Yeah, no, there's a ton. I don't want to repeat too much what other people have said, but I actually grew up watching my mom be a career public servant in the National Capital Region as well. So she's like your very typical Ottawa public servant, and she moved around departments and agencies a fair amount. She had a new job, I would say, every 6 months to 2 years kind of thing, and was just always building that network, building those soft skills, building the professional skills. And I find that things have not changed in the public service. There's opportunities kind of left and right. And one thing that I didn't know about before I joined, but I know a lot about now, is that we also do this these sort of temporary assignments where people can go and go on assignment to another department or unit or agency for a year or 2 years to get more experience, and then they come back to their home department having gained all of these skills and connections that they can then put back into their day job. So we use that process quite a bit. We're constantly looking for new people to join the team to sort of and I've certainly had a few staff myself who wanted to go on assignment and go, get new experience and make new connections. And I've always been super supportive of that. It's great to have, I love supporting really high performing employees in doing great work anywhere. So yeah, I've seen people change career streams. I've seen them change levels. I've seen them change branches. It's all very, very flexible. It's quite possible.
I think I'm loving hearing about all of the different opportunities there are for people to kind of test out different things, because truthfully, like when I arrived at Carleton, I was very much, oh, well, public service tends to be you're doing one thing. So it's great to hear that that's absolutely not true. Great. So next question's for Jeff. So I've asked this one to a couple other folks, but I'd love to hear your response as well. What entry-level jobs do you feel are best for learning as much as possible in medical product development?
I agree with the other panelists that have already said that it's good to grow into what you enjoy once you start out somewhere and start getting some experience. But it's all about opening those doors and giving yourself the best chance to open more doors. So from my experience in this industry and in what we do here, you're going to be able to open more doors, probably coming in entry level R&D scientist, R&D engineer. And generally that's because you're building something from the ground up with a new product development or a new product introduction. You're getting that fundamental scientific knowledge, that theory of operation for that product, have say in the product specifications, and you really see it develop. And on that journey, you're getting exposed to a lot of different aspects of the business. You'll be involved with QA, quality assurance, and regulatory assurance aspects, because in this field, as I've already alluded to, is very highly regulated. So any development of new product requires clearance through regulatory bodies such as the FDA, and meeting all those types of requirements and being aware of them, that gives you some insight into those aspects. And as well, developing a new product with the intent to manufacture it, you have to have in consideration the manufacturability of it. So, a lot of things work in a scientific journal and are really cool science fundamentally, but you can't manufacture them in large scale. So you have to build into anything that you're developing that ability to manufacture it in a cost-effective way, because if you're spending too much money to manufacture it, your margins go away. So in that regard, I think it opens up a lot of different doors for people to come in as an entry-level position. I mean, someone came in to a QA position would have experience in process and procedures and obviously compliance, but they would find the jump much harder in going into something more technical than a technical person with some fundamental science knowledge would have going into that type of role. So I think it just opens more doors and gives people a more well-rounded insight into the products and the technology.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. My next question is for Emily. So if you could do things all over again, would you choose the same path for yourself? If so, why? And if not, what things would you change?
That's a phenomenal question. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely an unplanned path in the first place. So I would 100% say that, if other opportunities had come up or, there was a chance to do something different, it's quite easy that I could see myself going in another direction, and that could have been equally rewarding, So I feel like we, we're told to pick a career almost in kindergarten, then we kind of freak out if we don't achieve that by a certain age. So, just putting that out there, like, I'm happy in the job I'm in. I think I'd be happy in quite a few other jobs as well, so I don't really know if that's the message that we should be, keeping in our heads anymore. But one thing I would say, absolutely, is to really look at, like, I didn't really get into this until I'd finished my master's, or even was actually partway through my PhD, was going to the Student Career Center. And I actually literally went to the one at Carleton, and it was so helpful, like being able to identify what my skills are and my interests are. That wasn't just like, yeah, you could work anywhere, was basically what my high school guidance counselor computer told me. But kind of getting more of a sense of, who I am and what I'm looking for was super helpful. But then in addition to that, identifying like that you can actually go through job posters and see what skills you're missing so that you can go and get them was just like it was such a logical thing that I just never thought of. So I'd really recommend going to your career center and sort of looking at various career paths and seeing where the gaps are that you need to fill. And in particular, for me, I started a PhD because I wanted to do research because I like research, but not because I needed it for a job. I think my main advice to people would be to sort of, for me personally, I think I would only do a PhD again if it's required for my job. It is actually required for my job at this point, so I'm glad that I stuck with it. But I would really, tell people to really think about that cautiously and not rush into it. There's plenty of time. So I think that would be my main advice.
That's excellent advice. Thank you so much. Fun fact about Carleton's Career Services is that they also provide services to alumni and recent grads, which is great news for myself looking at graduating in a year. So yeah, big fan of Career Services. Excellent. My next question is for Maria. So how do you see jobs in the field of data science changing in the future? How do you see that kind of evolving?
I think as the field maturing, it will become a bit more specialized. I think right now data science is kind of, we try to apply the same or similar methodology to the different domains, you know, to the medicine, to the biochemistry, to, let's say, cybersecurity. I think some domains do require less knowledge of, you know, what actually is kind of a bit more common sense, you know, like recommendation agents and voice recognition, but some of them do require a bit more of domain knowledge. So cybersecurity is one of them. And let's say I will see the medical application for data science will be another one of them. You do need to speak the same language as the people who will be using your models are. Also, you have to understand the problem, because we only have people who come from cybersecurity and they think in the manner which is not quite applied to the data science, a bit more of a rules. You know, if you, let's say, transfer over 1 terabyte of data, that's bad, but it depends. So we are asking different questions, a bit more of a data science tailored questions. Let's say, is that normal for you specifically to transfer 1 terabyte of data? Maybe you're a data scientist, maybe that's part of your job. So we actually build the questions the way they can be answered with data science. And for that, you need to know the domain. And I think that's where this field will go as it matures. You will be not just a general data scientist who goes across, but have a bit more of a specialization of which field you apply your data science to.
There we go. That's excellent. Thank you so much. So my final question that we've prepared this evening is for Yasser. So what part of your position do you feel the most satisfying, and what parts do you feel to be the most challenging?
No, just like others have mentioned, I didn't join the government for making money. I totally believe in public service. And the most rewarding part of my job that's exciting is, you know, especially on the drinking water side, is knowing that we made a difference. On the air quality side, knowing that we're protecting the health of Canadians. Before I was at Health Canada, I was at Environment Canada, where I led a lot of the nanotechnology file there. And, you know, just knowing that we're making a difference in building a whole new economy safely was very exciting. So, you know, just having pride in what we're accomplishing as public servants is the best part of my job. The most challenging, of course, is the bureaucracy. Nobody ever prepares you for the millions of different steps that you, not just in the government, but anywhere, any big company, the millions of steps you have to take before you can do anything. It gets mind-numbing at times. You know, it breaks you down over your career, and then you find new ways to cope with it, and try to enjoy the little wins that you get. And those are some of the challenges, and so at least how I address them in my day-to-day life. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. It's, again, like, it's great to hear so many different perspectives on public service and what sort of things can be challenging about that. I keep thinking about this and relating it to my own context in my volunteer work at Carleton. And I keep thinking, oh yeah, there totally is a lot of steps for things, and there's totally a lot of steps for this and that. Yeah, an interesting tangent my brain went on, but so the next part of our program will be answering some of the questions from the Q&A that the participants and the audience members have been contributing to. So I'm just gonna quickly pull that up. Great, so our first question is from Temi, I think. I'll get a message if that's wrong. But our first question is from Temi for everyone. What is your advice for undergraduate computer science students? Do you recommend doing co-op? Oh, where did it go? Oh no. Okay, I think I found it. So What is your advice for undergraduate computer science students? Would you recommend doing co-ops or participating in multiple internships during the summer months over the years? So maybe we'll start with Emily, and then I'll call on each person for their response to this question. And let me know at any time if you'd like me to repeat it.
Sorry, just trying to find the mute button there. For an undergraduate computer science student, would you recommend doing co-op? Sorry, was it this question? No, I'm repeating it. Okay. For this one, I'm mostly going to pass on this one just because it's not my area of expertise. For me as a biologist, I would say that for biology, I think that both of those approaches would be very valuable.
Thank you. Maria, I'd love to hear what you have to say on this one.
I think both will work. Like we had students who have started as a co-op and then they moved into the permanent position. We also had interns that we had for a year and then they moved in the permanent position. So one advice would be if you have a choice, then get a longer co-op, let's say 8 months co-op. I think because there is some time, first couple months till you get up to speed, because depending on the product or the company which you join for your co-op program, for example, at Interset, it's fairly large code and fairly new technology that you have to take in before you actually can contribute and feel like comfortable with the code that you're working with. So I would advise co-op or internship, but try to get a larger terms. So let's say 2 terms joined if it's spring and winter, spring and summer, for example. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. Jeffrey, I was wondering if you wanted to add anything as well.
Sure. I largely agree with what Maria just said. I mean, as an example, we hire co-op students here all the time. And I think co-op has become far more popular over the years than it used to be. And it's an edge for those students that are getting that experience every year or every couple of years, however it's run at each university. But I think both would work. Internships over the summer are generally shorter term, but it's still going to provide you with some experience, which is better than none. But for co-op, it is generally longer term. We've taken both 4-month and 8-month co-ops and tend to prefer the 8-month terms just because it's benefit both ways, benefit to the student and benefit to the company. I mean, at a 4-month term, being a niche technical company like we are, the students just kind of getting up to speed with what they need to know by the time they're leaving. And so they spend that first 3 months really getting familiar with processes and the technology, and then can start contributing at a higher level and then turn around and leave. So at an 8-month term, they get more out of it and they can contribute and see more and understand more. So I would recommend, like Maria said, do the longer if you can get it.
I also want to add, try to take it as early as possible, because sometimes what you experience in your co-op may direct what courses you take in next term. So if you can take it after the 2nd year or after the 3rd year, if you have a position in good academic staging, try it. Because I find in my personal experience, what being my co-op after directed me towards the data science, because I happened to end up with the analytics company which have worked with the data and I was extremely excited about it. So I would suggest as early as you can get and as long co-op term as you can bargain for.
That's great advice. Yasser, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Just to echo what's already been said, longer co-op terms, internships are the key. But the one thing I would also, a couple of things I would like to add. One is to do very different co-op terms, internships. Don't do them in the same field, in the same exact area. Try to get as diverse of an experience as you can. That'll help you, concentrate your interests as you move and take your courses at university and start to find jobs in that area, and it'll help you network. There's a lot of turnover in different places, and it'll help you build that knowledge base. And the other thing is, when you are, even if you're a co-op student or intern, the key is really, as you're doing the work, is also to see what trends are coming down in the future. You know, it'll help you gauge what you need to be doing in school. So for us, it's very much focusing on the computer science world, is the cloud computing angles, the big data, you know, as a government, how we deal with that. And you know, supercomputers and all that kind of IT trends which are emerging as a government moving forward. And so I think as a co-op student or an intern, being in positions where you can start to see those trends and know what to take in the future is going to situate you for success as you move forward.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I was able to, part of like my program, we do like a field placement, but it's for 1 day a week for most of the school year. And I did find it challenging because by the time I was getting used to things, I was nearing the end of my time with my placement crew. So that's great advice. My next question is from Mackenzie. So this question is more for Jeff, but she would also love input from any of the panelists. What would you say the role or importance of scientists or people with scientific backgrounds is to business development in biotechnology and healthcare companies? And then there's a follow-up question. So how does someone with a science background break into the business side of these types of companies?
I would say that they play a fairly high importance, someone with a technical background or a scientific background in certain aspects of business development. I mean, if you think about it, someone that has experience in a business area and is technically strong and has proven themselves in that area, they are a very good fit for something like mergers and acquisitions. So when you're in a company that's looking to acquire other technically specialized companies, you know, having someone with that technical knowledge and can help with the strategy and go in and ask the right questions and really drive that merger potentially. So there is opportunities. I think the second part of that question is, how does someone break into it? I would say networking is key. Getting in early to an organization that has, I guess, a larger breadth of areas. I mean, startups generally don't have defined departments or sectors of the business yet. So that may provide some opportunity to transition over earlier in a startup. In a large organization like Siemens, you know, there is I guess, a bit more siloed structure, but you know, getting in and making your interests known and networking with the right people does provide more opportunity. And there, like I said already, Siemens has a good platform where, you know, you can learn different parts of the business. They have mentorship programs where you can pick someone to mentor you in a different area, gain experience there through them, open their networks to you. And I've seen a lot of people transition over by doing an MBA later in their career, just to facilitate or open more opportunities on the business side. So overall, I think science sets people up well for strategy thinking or strategical thinking. So there is contributions that can be made on that aspect of business strategy as well. So.
Thank you so much. Are any of the other panelists interested in fielding a response to Mackenzie's question as well? Yeah, Emily, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I would just add that, like, it's another saying that doesn't really mean a lot when you're first hearing it, but like getting your foot in the door is really just, that's the hard part. People who have tried to get, for example, a public service job in Ottawa, it's getting that first job that's really hard, and then you sort of get into that, you know, moving around, at least within the public service, that you hear about so often. So, you know, if you're saying, you know, someone with a science background, how do you break into the business side? How would I do it? I'd start on the science side, and then once I get to know people inside the company, that's when you can sort of start to transition over to the other side. Getting in is the hard part. That's the part that you need to concentrate on, I think.
Yeah, and I would add that if I didn't make it clear, that's kind of what I was going along the lines of, is get in with the science side, get your networks, and then make the move. So.
I think that actually segues almost perfectly into our next question from Evan. So they've directed this question towards Maria, but would also appreciate any of the panelists' feedback. As a recent mathematics grad who wishes to get into data science and analytics, but not having any luck with applications, and then in brackets, due to lack of proper experience. So they're asking, what are the skills / experience that I could develop / gain to improve chances at getting their foot in the door? And they thank you for your response.
And with mathematics, it's, again, depends what type of mathematics is the specialization. I think data science is heavily based on statistics. So for example, many of our models based on Bayesian statistics, which will be part of the typical mathematics course, I would suppose. If someone doesn't have a lot of experience but wants to get into the industry, I would suggest do some of the personal projects. So I want to see that you actually put your time and effort into, let's say, research in Spark, or trying to implement specific algorithm and understand exactly what you're doing. I find online courses are great, but you have to do them right. So you have to not just follow the instruction, like they often give it to you step by step. And then when you can ask people, okay, why did you do that step? There is no understanding behind it. It's easy to follow in shallow, easy path. I find with academics, when you actually go to university like Carleton, then you have interaction with professors and they wouldn't let you get it easy. They would actually force you to learn insight underneath every step and understand the mathematics, or let's say the computer science theory, which is behind specific selection between different algorithms, or how you deal with the data. So, and I think also if you generally looking to enter any data science field, maybe it's good to narrow down what exactly you want to do. Because again, data science now getting larger, and there is a huge field. Maybe it's good to specialize and also gain some knowledge in the domain that you want to apply your data science to. So that would be my advice. Get your personal project and don't make it easy on you. Try to actually get the nitty-gritty details of what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I might also suggest, it sounded like Emily mentioned earlier, career services was able to sort of help pick out what pieces of certain job descriptions that you were able to sort of develop skills in those types of areas. So maybe that could be potentially an option for Evan as well. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment on that?
I would just add, similar to what Maria was saying, I mean, I'll use someone in my team as an example. I have a couple data scientists in my team, but one of which was a biomedical engineer by training, and then was performing a job function for the team, and wanted to get into more of the data analytics side of the work we do. And so, brought it up with me, and we facilitated the ability for her to take a bit of a leave to take a specialized course in a master's in data science out west. So, and then she's come back and she's fulfilled that role nicely as applied to the medical field. So that is an opportunity as well, as you can take your skills, get in an area and try to transition over. Again, similar to other answers that have come out in these Q&A sessions.
Wonderful, thank you. So the next question I have is for Yasser. As a graduate student, oh, where did it go? It disappeared again. I'm gonna find it.
I just answered it through.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so I'll jump onto Sarita's question. So she says, thank you so much for all of your advice. There's a question, this is a question for anyone who would like to answer it. Many of us are graduating soon and looking for opportunities to develop and grow in our careers. With the COVID-19 pandemic and everything shifting to an online format, what do you think would be sort of the best way to network during these kind of pandemic times?
Maybe I can go first. I'm unmuted. Definitely COVID-19 has changed the landscape. As I mentioned earlier, we're doing virtual work now. the key to networking, we have less face-to-face time now for networking, but there's always email. I have a lot of people who've contacted us saying, hey, can we have a meeting on Teams or Zoom for 10 minutes? We'd like to tell you a bit about ourselves. We have people who are cold calling us, looking for jobs as well. So everyone's getting a bit creative. We're getting a lot of contact from Facebook, LinkedIn. So I think if you're a bit creative, even in the COVID world, you can still have that networking and find some opportunities. Of course, you have to be mindful that when you enter the workforce, it's going to be different. You're not going to see your boss. You're not going to see your colleagues. You're going to be sitting at home like we are right now with on a computer, unless you have a reason to go into work and the environment's different, like a lab. But to a large extent, you'll have a different experience. But for sure, in my view, all these opportunities exist. Nothing has really changed. We are advancing the same files. It's just the FaceTime and the networking opportunities are just taking a different format, and you got to adapt with that. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to comment? See Jeffrey unmuted.
Yeah, was Emily going to go, or I don't want to cut anyone off?
I think you're good.
Okay. I was just going to add, like Yasser said, the landscape's changing. Businesses are changing the way they interact as well. And there's a lot of, just as an added addition to what was already mentioned, there is a lot of online workshops or conferences that used to happen in person, and a lot of which aren't even having really steep administration fees. Some of them are even free. So it provides opportunities for networking in that aspect too. Companies will go there to meet students. I know Siemens has had a few online networking sessions with students just to get a pool of candidates for upcoming jobs and things like that. So you watch out for those types of things too, if you know the types of businesses you're interested in possibly working for.
Thank you. Emily, I'd love to hear your take on this.
Thanks. No, I was going to say something very similar. I mean, when the lockdown happened for us at work, we didn't even take a single day off. We just immediately switched over to virtual. Our external Indigenous partners switched over to virtual, like nothing slowed down. So we've had we took the opportunity to conduct a series of virtual workshops over the summer and just networked like crazy there. And I guess the one maybe more, I don't know, less typical piece of advice that I would give too is when you do find yourself in those virtual spaces, not to like hog the microphone, but to give, a bit of a deep introduction of yourself, just so folks know who you are, because it's so much more difficult to sort of get to know people when you are not physically in the same room as them. So I will do almost like a 30-second introduction of like who I am, where I come from, what my background is, what I do for work, and like why am I at this meeting kind of thing. And I find that suddenly then, you're getting DMs in the middle of this workshop, and suddenly you're networking with other people. So yeah, I highly recommend virtual workshops. That's been my number one networking tool since this all started.
That's wonderful. It's great to know. Maria, is there anything you'd like to add as well? Right on. So with that, I believe I'll be passing things off to Dr. McDonald for closing remarks. Thank you all so much. That's it from me.
Well, thanks, Millie. Many thanks again to everyone for joining us this evening. I can say that many of the observations our panelists made also apply to working within universities. Be flexible, stay curious, be willing to learn, be able to work with others, be willing to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves, communicate clearly, be positive, and discover what you actually like to do. If you do this, things will work out for you. I want to thank Millie, Anisha, Lily, all our panelists, all the other individuals who worked so hard and gave their valuable time to make this event happen. I hope you enjoyed our 8th Science Student Alumni Mixer. I hope to see you again next year. In the meantime, please visit our website at science.carleton.ca for a list of upcoming free events and more information on how alumni can stay connected with the Carleton community. All the best and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.